Hello friends and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club with Ross and Jamie. The Coffee Morning Show brought to you live every Saturday, direct to Twitch and available later on demand at youtube.com/gamertagged and podcast services. We are on episode 67, would you believe? And it's going to be a bit of a banger. Jamie, good morning, sir. How the heck are you?
Good morning, mate. Yeah, not too bad. Just bopping away to the music as per. And
absolutely.
Filling my body with as much caffeine as it can hold. So.
That's what we have to do with these early morning starts at 10 a.m. Does that qualify as an early morning start? I think it does on a weekend.
It does when you go to bed at like 5, which is not unheard of for me. So, and I'm getting old, but as my friends keep reminding me. So.
You're not old. You're younger than me. You're definitely not old. You're just a young thing.
But I am decrepit, so it comes with a simulation of age within the self that makes you. I feel I'm coming up 38. I'm actually 38 the end of this month, but I feel like you could put a 1 before that.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Everything creaks. Some of the joints I think have been replaced with broken glass and fire.
Yeah.
So, good times.
Absolutely. So, you know what was really quite funny? I wasn't planning on raising this on the breakfast show, but you know what? I think I might. Last week, if you remember our reader mail segment about
yes.
Too Human, well, just for a little bit of fun, I was streaming on the Twitch channel just last night, and one of the viewers came in to make a request, who was also the only other Too Human fan that had listened to the show, and they had a request to say we have to stream or do a stream of Too Human because it's the best game of all time. And it wasn't Alan, it was somebody else out there in the void of the internet who is also a Too Human fan. We had a big request. How crazy is that?
It wasn't someone Alan had paid who was using as a proxy, or
it's possible. It is possible. But I was like, okay, well, if we're going to be getting like fan requests to do a Too Human stream, that's clearly going to have to happen, mate.
Yeah.
I'm pulling you into this this rabbit hole with me, because if that happens, I'm not going to suffer alone. You're going to have to come with me.
I don't want to play Too Human. No one should ever have to play Too Human.
Well, you just have to watch it. You know, like that scene in Clockwork Orange where you're forced to watch.
Oh, the Ludovico technique.
Yeah. That's what we're going to do for you. It's like you have to watch it.
I sometimes have nightmares where I wake up screaming Too Human into the dark. So yeah, I can do that.
Oh mate. You doing okay though? You had a good week?
Yeah, not too shabby. Busy on and off, just taking along doing Jamie things. But I've been, gaming wise, I've finally tried Hitman just briefly so far, and I've done a little more on some of the other sort of Games Pass titles that I'm working my way through bit by bit. One of the highlights of my week. Oh, and I've returned to Minecraft, so that's my life gone again.
I see.
But one of the highlights of the week games is I played SnowRunner last night, actually. And
dude, do you play SnowRunner? Don't tease me. Well, don't tease me. I love SnowRunner. It's phenomenal.
I've never ever played it, and Alan asked me to install it and jump on because he was doing a job that he said would just be more efficient with 2 people. So, but to get to the multiplayer, you have to play through to a certain point. You have to get to your first garage.
Yes, that's right.
Which did not go well. Because there's a bit where you come across a bridge and there's a sign. One says garage to the right and gas to the left. So I turned right and straight into a mud puddle. And I haven't seen snow. The name is a lie. But it was really frustrating. I was finding it very frustrating playing it single player, and then once I got to the garage and got into the game with Al, it was hilarious.
It is.
We did a mission where we had to transport some stuff. He had a crane and I had a truck. And we were not equipped. They were highway tires. They was not designed for mud. Yep. So there were sections where we were. At one point, he literally used the crane on the other truck, on his truck, to lift the front end of mine and point me in the right direction, and then I just spun the wheels until I got some traction and went. So it was good fun. Yeah, really good fun.
Honestly, it's a game. It's the physics in that game are so accomplished. It's amazing. It's really good. It's like once you start decking your truck out with like mud tires, a winch, and like other things, it is immensely satisfying to just go off-roading. And then, you've also got like the missions, so to speak, where you have to recover different things. But it's also just awesome just to go off-roading in the wilderness in this game. And it is that trucker life. It's like Truck Simulator, but it's like the sky view sort of thing. And but you can go into the cab as well. Yeah, the first person. That's immensely difficult in first person, so I wouldn't recommend that. But
I tried it once.
It's so much fun. And
it was just trees.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was stuck in a small wooded area that I couldn't get out of. But all I could see was just green and branches. But no, I'm impressed with the game. It looks gorgeous, and like you said, the physics are fantastic. It's not, for me, it's not a game I would probably end up playing on my own all that much. But I will absolutely play multiplayer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games like that.
I'm sad because Jess would when it first came out, because I'd heard Mudrunner was good but not quite there kind of thing. But SnowRunner was like the full realization of what the team wanted to do, and massively improved physics, massively improved graphics and everything, and content. So I played that on launch, and every night Jess would come into the living room or my little gaming den, and I would be making I'd be living the trucker life. Yeah. For hours at a time. It would just be chucking a podcast, and then you just have this really tranquil, amazing little off-roading second life. And she was just shaking her head to say, "Are you kidding me? You're actually spending hours just making deliveries as a truck driver." I thought, it's amazing. It's so tranquil. It's wonderful. I love it. And it became this hilarious running joke. But it's so good. Is it on Game Pass, or is it just a purchase? I can't remember.
It is on Game Pass.
The gift that keeps on giving is Game Pass. Seriously, it's amazing.
Everything is on Game Pass. Everything at this point. I mean, a friend of mine has joked that eventually we will all be owned by Disney. There will be a Funko Pop of every human on the planet, and we'll all be voiced by Matthew Mercer. Once that happens, the final stage of human evolution is complete. But yeah, it is on Games Pass, which is why Alan's been playing it, and unlike a lot of his Game Pass plays, because obviously he's an achievement hunter, and a lot of his Game Pass plays he'll play them and he'll be like, I finally finished that one, and he'll move on. There's games that he's not necessarily enjoying but wants to score. But this one, I don't even know that he was working particularly on an achievement last night. It was just, I've got to deliver these damn boxes, so I need to hire someone to come in, and so I downloaded it, and I'll probably end up doing more of that. But it was fun. It was very much a personal thing for why I probably won't end up playing it single player that much, just because I've only got so much time in the day. Roughly 23 hours, and allow one for sleep. So there's a lot of games out there. So, it's very good fun. It's
such a good co-op game, because once you get into the long wheelbase missions and the different regions of the map and everything, it's brilliant co-op, because the amount of times I have rolled my cab down a hill, and then my teammate has had to get the winch, anchor their vehicle so they don't get pulled over, and then pull me back right side up. It's immensely satisfying for such a slow game. Really good stuff.
Yeah, I've played games of a similar sort of pace and similar sort of that realization when you sat there thinking, am I just working? Have I just had a career shift now?
Yeah, you have. You totally have.
even with, I mean, I'll admit, even with stuff like Minecraft, I mean, like I said, I've been playing that again recently. Again, on Games Pass. And I've fired up a realm that we had a few years, or a couple of years back, that had sort of gone dormant, and I've re-upped it. And I spent most of a solid 2 hours yesterday digging and laying a road, so it'd be easier to get from World Spawn to... Now, the past couple of nights, I've been off with my friend Ed, and we've been adventuring. So we pack up our inventory with all the gear we need to survive in the wilderness, and we just walk. And we walked for miles.
Okay.
And we went looking for stuff. We found villages and pillager towers and weird little things and sunken shipwrecks and all this. And it was really cool and fun. And then we decided, enough's enough. We've got loads of good gear from all of this. We made a compass. We found out we pointed it because the compass points to World Spawn in Minecraft. So we made a compass. We're like, right, we're heading home. Right. And it took us a while and we got back. That was an adventure. But when we got back to World Spawn, I was like, this could really do with a better thoroughfare to the village. And so I just dug a road. And there came a point when I was sat there thinking, I don't even, I wouldn't even garden if I had a garden. And yet I've been digging in this for about 5 in-game days. So,
that's the thing about these kind of games, like Lawnmower Simulator, Truck Driver Simulator. It kind of taps into something that you would never do in real life, but I don't know. It's a virtual kind of thing, like very procedural, very just kind of sit down and waste a few hours doing something that is literally just chipping away at laying tarmac and laying a road, and you have that sense of achievement. It's like I built that road with my own virtual thumbsticks.
Yeah. Viscera cleanup detail's been another one for me lately like that. And I'm sat there thinking, I have chores around the house I haven't done, but I'm here gathering up body parts and mopping floors because, god damn it, this strange alien landscape needs to be sparkling.
Well, I'd like to think that you don't have body parts and blood strewn everywhere all over your actual property.
Not as much as in Viscera cleanup detail. I mean, it just depends how bad of a day I've had, really. So.
Oh, mate, fantastic! So we've got a cracking show lined up for the viewers and listeners today. There's been some bits of big, catastrophically huge news that has broken this past week, Jamie, and there's some other
quite a week,
and there's been some other little smaller bits as well. So before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the main topic of the show, which is of course the Activision Blizzard buyout by Xbox or Microsoft, there's a couple of smaller things that looked really, really awesome. First of which being the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. This game it feels like it's been in development for like forever, and it keeps getting pushed and delayed, and it seems like it's never coming out. But finally, they just released a gameplay overview trailer. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And you had a chance to watch it this morning. I watched it last night, and holy crap! I've never wanted Lego blocks with ray tracing more in my life. It just looks phenomenal. It looks so good.
It is gorgeous. It is the Lego games are some. I mean, I've played every single Traveler's Tales Lego game that has been released, and I've maxed a lot of them for achievements as well. I mean, a lot of them. I played the original Lego Star Wars when it came out and got hooked and played. I've even somewhere in amongst this array of collectible bullshit behind me is the Iron Patriot, the Lego Iron Patriot figure from the Marvel Superheroes Special Collection, and there's another one in there. So I love the Lego games, and I've been waiting for the Skywalker Saga one because I'm also a huge Star Wars fan. So obviously between the two. I say huge Star Wars fan with the caveat that I haven't watched the most recent films yet. I really ought to, so that's terrible of me. But that trailer, it's gorgeous looking, but it looks like a Lego game. Like it's got all of that fun element of breaking bricks and collecting studs and running about and looking for stuff. But they've just updated little bits that were becoming a frustration as the series went on.
Yeah.
And so like now with like the aimed blaster mechanics, and you've got a little bit better combat mechanics instead of just spinning around, which never bothered me, but was one of those things that's like that could do with a refresh.
Yeah.
And they have
evolve it a little bit. So, it could be updated and stuff, yeah.
But I'm very, very excited.
I was just thinking there about what you said about not having really seen the most recent Star Wars films. For anybody out there who hasn't seen the episode 7, 8, 9, don't watch them. Just play this game, and this will be your canon, and that will be the story that you think is the proper.
That is true.
The proper canon for the Star Wars series.
It would be quite interesting, though, in years to come, looking back at it, going, "Oh, I loved Star Wars as a boy, and we had the Jar Jar, and we had the good times with Luke, and then everyone was plastic for some reason, which was strange, as I recall, but it was."
And it got much more slapstick all of a sudden. It's like, well, that was a tonal shift from Luke losing his hand at the end of Empire. Yeah.
Now, that's a point. There is the most exciting thing for me in that entire trailer comes right at the end when they cycle through the modes and it says mumble mode. Because, honest to God, back in the day, if you played Lego Pirates of the Caribbean at all, if anyone watching did, one of my favourite things about that is walking around as a little Lego Captain Jack Sparrow, and no one speaks in that game. There's no voice dialogue from the film, and so you'd be wandering around and go, and in the background the music play. The original. Or one of the Lego Star Wars before it, where they had no dialogue, the scene where the "I am your father" scene, Darth Vader holding up a picture of him holding with a pram or something like that, going and that's when Luke does the and it was hilarious. And then they hit a point where they started using actual voice lines from the films.
That's right,
and that was brilliant too, especially the way they started to have a lot more background humour then, which was excellent. And they would use the voice lines cleverly in certain cutscenes. So although the line would be the same, the setup would be slightly different, and it made it funny.
Yeah. But
I cannot lie. As much as I love hearing the dialogue in the games, mumble mode is how I'm going to play that. I love it so much.
It's funny because the early ones didn't have any dialogue. It was just it was like silent movies, but with a bit of mumbling going on. Yeah, and that was what was genius about them. And then they eventually did add proper voice acting. I think it wasn't the first one one of the Lego Batman games to actually do proper voice acting or something like that with it. I'm trying to remember the lineage now of when they crossed over to proper dialogue and everything like that, which was still fun, but. I love the fact that you can go back and play it with just expressions and noises and body language and proper physical comedy slapstick kind of stuff as well.
Yeah,
that's going to be really, really funny.
And I've always said slapstick, I think, can be hard to do in animation of any kind, because or to do to a level that is excellent. It's I've. Like them or loathe them, the various Family Guy has always done it well for me. It's all about timing.
Yeah.
So I always used one of my examples. There's a scene in an episode of Family Guy where I think it's Peter says something about they say you can't handle your drink, and he's got an ice cream cone. He goes, "Wow, rum and raisin!" Licks it, looks at the family, and then goes face down through a coffee table. And I laugh like a drain every time I see it. But the bit that gets me is that the timing on it is perfect. So it's that fraction of a second with the look at everyone, and then he is straight down, arm bent up behind the back in a position that you couldn't lie in without being hurt. And old Warner Brothers cartoons and stuff used to do it quite well, and things like that. So you get all of those moments with slapstick comedy in animation, which I think are brilliant. And the Lego games have always nailed it as well. Absolutely nailed it. Even one of the Lego Marvel games, there was always sequences where Nick Fury was always drinking a milkshake, and he would usually throw it over his shoulder, and it would generally hit someone behind him. But as the cutscenes progressed, one of them would catch it and then fumble it, and it would hit the guy next to him and things like that. So it's just little moments that just make you chuckle and just feel good games. Really fun to play.
100%, man. Yeah, and I was really excited when I saw the part of the trailer where there's proper space combat with the TIE fighters and the Falcon and everything. It's I really hope these aren't little on rail sections. They're proper sequences that you can almost like free roam dogfight and stuff like that. I'm like, it looks like they've really had a massive shake up for a lot of the gameplay systems. I mean, I never thought I would ever want a third person cover shooter Lego game before, but as soon as I saw it, I thought,
Yeah.
every Lego game, every franchise now needs to have a Lego cover shooter equivalent. And because do you remember ages ago? I mean, we're going back years now. Like somebody did a stop motion Lego Gears of War little video.
Yep.
And it was a whole combat sequence of the Gears of War with the locust bursting out, but it was all painstakingly animated in stop motion. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, well, clearly we have to make this now. It's like this has to happen, and I would love that. I would so love that.
Myself and a friend who we've both played the Lego games to absolute death over the years. We're talking about our dream franchises to get made into a Lego game, and we kind of came up with it. We would like something like Lego Gaming Worlds, where so Lego Dimensions obviously did it to a degree. That was Toys to Life, obviously, but you were hopping through different worlds, and we would like a Lego Gaming Worlds where you play through various games in Lego form. So Lego Halo, Lego Gears, Lego Tomb Raider, or you get to run about as a little plastic, Lego Assassin's Creed. The options there are ridiculous with the quality of stuff. Yeah. So there's a lot of franchises I would love to see, brickified by Traveller's Tales.
Yeah. Give me Lego Thundercats. That's what I want. You can have a lot of fun with cats and the humor. Like coughing up mothballs and stuff like that would be pretty funny.
Lego 80s, that would do me. Just basically, if Traveller's Tales ever see this, if you could just make everything I like into one of your games,
I know.
By say summer, that'd be great. So chop chop. But
I also feel that like at this rate, we're probably never going to be getting like a huge AAA Judge Dredd game, but a Lego Judge Dredd of like mega, like instead of Mega City 1, it'd be like Mega Blocks 1 or something, something like that.
That
could
be
really
amazing.
Funny.
I would play the hell out of that, especially again with like the mumble mode type humor and things like that. You could really play off because obviously Judge Dredd hyper violent, and then 2000 AD like hyper violence throughout the whole comic.
Yeah.
And there is something incredibly entertaining to me about taking those very violent sequences and making them in Lego where they are completely family friendly. Yeah. And so you just, and that's where you end up replacing stuff. Instead of someone getting their head chopped off, they get knocked out by something or thrown across the way, or something lands on them and then they pop up from under it dizzy. And that very sort of Warner Brothers-esque Wile E. Coyote type humor. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, like you're replacing like geysers of blood fountains gushing everywhere with just the little bits just like spewing everywhere. Yeah. And if somebody gets their arm ripped off, it's just a plastic arm that gets like kind of thing, and the character just picks it up, is like shrugs, and then off you go, kind of thing. Like the humor is so ripe for ultra violence, but it's comical violence because it's plastic bricks. We should Kickstarter a concept here.
Well, I'll email Traveller's Tales. Just say, look, we had this idea. I don't necessarily. I don't even want money. I just make it and send me a copy, and I'll be happy. That'll do. So, in fact, don't even release it. No one else needs this. Just 2 copies. Give them to us.
Well,
I'm sure they'd be down.
My friend Christina is a producer at Traveller's Tales, so I'm going to have to get her on the phone and say, hey, get us in to consult on these an ideation session for Judge Dredd Lego.
I would play the hell out of that. And also, weirdly, there's a little parallel between the Lego Star Wars stuff, because did you see in the trailer Gonk's in there, which was brilliant. He's at Gonk just toddling along, and you've got the wee droids and stuff. And obviously, there's a lot of there is the artwork of 2000 AD. There are some similarities between some of the Star Wars stuff, because obviously in Star Wars, not everything is smooth and polished. It's one of my favourite things about Star Wars and the universe that they created, is that you have blocky droids and you have these. I mean, the Jawa's vehicle is just ludicrous. Right? It's just someone put tracks on a house, the Sandcrawler. So I love that, and 2000 AD's got a lot of that. It's just like, if it works, it works. It doesn't need to be polished. We only made this thing to, especially the meat wagons were always one for me in Judge Dredd. Yeah, they made them to go around and pick up all the bodies that the judges left in their wake. So they're just cubes that just come along and scoop up the dead. Like, yeah, why not? So yeah, there's. We're doing it again. We have a tendency to do this when we come up with game ideas, and then afterwards I spend the day sad because I know I'm not getting it. So
you never know. You never know who's listening or watching that may just say, I'm going to take that idea and we'll put together some concept boards and we'll pitch it. And they're like, no, Judge Dredd is ultraviolent. We can't do that. But you should do that because it's ripe. It's ripe for the Lego world.
It would, and the humor that they could get from that would be amazing, because there is definitely something in that extreme juxtaposition between the ultra-violent and the family-friendly, and how you make that work. I think the funny is there to be had. So,
I know. Okay, let's quickly go on to the next topic, because we still haven't touched the main topic of the show. We're just like this. We just ramble. We go off on tangents, and it's the way the show needs to be to keep us entertained, and hopefully you entertained as well. But there's a little headline about the Nintendo Switch. So I believe today Banjo-Kazooie has already hit the Switch Online service as part of the games list, which is one of my all-time favorite 3D platformers. As I honestly believe is better than Super Mario 64. Don't at me. I'm right. It's so good. It's so good. It is better. Anyway, but also Majora's Mask, I believe, Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask is hitting the service. I think it's next month, according to some headlines that I read as well. So Majora's Mask is regarded as like the ultimate like best version of Ocarina of Time, Jamie. I've never played Majora's Mask. I never had it at the time. I think I had actually moved on from my N64 by the time Majora's Mask came out, but I was a huge fan. Like, one of the greatest RPGs of all time was Ocarina of Time for me. That's okay. I like the little jingle kind of coming in, ambient noises. It's kind of fun.
I thought I had shut her up, but apparently no.
So yeah, Ocarina of Time was easily, even still to this day, I've got it on my 3DS, which looks amazing. It's pin sharp and really good. Ocarina of Time is, without doubt, one of my favourite all-time games. But did you ever play Majora's Mask?
No, I never played Ocarina of Time either, but I over-the-shouldered Ocarina of Time with a friend of mine. So a mate of mine had an N64. I didn't have one. I was a PC boy when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I spent, school summer holidays was usually, 6 weeks summer holidays. It was 3 weeks at his house, 3 weeks at mine. We lived in each other's pockets when we were younger. And so we would sit there. We were playing a lot of multiplayer stuff and doing a lot of like GoldenEye and still dusting off the SNES for Rock and Roll Racing, one of the best games ever made. And so we would play all these, but sometimes we would just sit there and I would be sat back and he would play on something like, Ocarina or Super Mario 64. And I would over the shoulder it. We would just sit and I'd pass it back and forth. So I dabbled. Yeah. He played it extensively. I was quite happy sitting and watching. It was the pre-Twitch years. So this was the only way you could get to watch someone else play a game and save yourself the effort. But Ocarina, I never played extensively, but I did end up borrowing off him at some point and playing through it. And I watched it, played it in later years.
Yeah.
On, in retro mode sort of thing, and dived into it a bit. Absolutely fantastic game. And eventually, as I said, I never played it back in the day, eventually ended up sitting down and playing Ocarina properly. And love it. Majora's Mask never got round to, and weirdly, for all the love Majora's Mask has, most people I know never got round to Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
It's odd. I think it skipped a generation at some point. So.
I think it did.
But I've watched it.
Yeah, because it's kind of regarded as like a hard, like really hard version of Ocarina of Time. I'm thinking, well, if that's the premise to get me to play it, it's like I'm good, thanks. I don't actually need to.
Yeah,
I don't need that experience. I've got Ocarina of Time, which is a perfect game. Yeah. So I'm good. But I'll probably be checking it out on my Switch now. And any excuse to relive Banjo-Kazooie, I'm going to be doing that.
Oh yeah.
Even though I have rare replay on the Xbox, which actually has Banjo-Kazooie at 4K widescreen, whereas this is the kind of the bugbear of the Switch Online games. They bring the games, they port them over to the Switch, but they're not up-res, they're not in widescreen, they're the original format of 4:3. It's like they're doing like the typical Nintendo fashion, the minimum effort to get their back catalogue onto modern hardware without celebrating the back catalogue of sprucing them up a little bit. And I'm still going to play it. I'm still going to play it and love it.
I think that's the thing. I mean, Nintendo suffer more from the but emulators argument than anyone else, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
Because as you say, they'll do the bare minimum. And, again, I'm never going to knock any of the consoles or any of the platforms. I love all of them. There's nothing but joy in my heart for gaming as a concept. So anything that gets more of it out there is fine. With that caveat in place, Nintendo bugged me with that because I see an awful lot of the time where people say like, "Oh, it's re-released and you can play it, and we're only going to charge you this much for it, and here you go. Do you want it?" And I see people online going, "But if I'm that desperate, I'll just." There's the N64. Right, here we go. But you don't see as much of that. You see people clamoring for back compatibility for older games when it comes to PlayStation, Xbox.
Yeah.
And constant slews of older stuff getting released with anniversary editions and things like that on Steam and PC. And with Nintendo, it's just like, bin them. I've already got it here. I'm just going to play the original. See, there's more love for the actual going back and playing the retro consoles with the Nintendo stuff than anything else, I think. So. But
I know.
It's Banjo-Kazooie. It'll be fun to play, whatever happens, because it's a fantastic game.
It is. It really is. That's the thing about Nintendo. They're so rich in IP of games that came out, especially on the Wii U. Like games that came out on the Wii U are badly needing to get ported over to the Switch proper. And there's collections which I still would sorely love, and I would happily pay full price for if they made it onto a Switch in an upscaled, remastered package. I've been crying out for the Metroid Prime series since pretty much the Switch ever first launched, and I still hope that we're gonna get that, especially with Prime 4 still kind of in the works. It's still got a long way to go, of course, but I really hope that more people get to experience the Metroid Prime trilogy, because it is up there with Halo Combat Evolved and Metroid Prime 1. They're kind of those kind of seminal games that could show, in Metroid's case, how to take a traditional side-scrolling Metroidvania and make it a first-person game, a first-person puzzle game, adventure game, but still feel like a traditional Metroid game. And that is bring that back. That game is freaking royalty. Anyway, I digress. Jamie, let's go into the main topic of the show, and it is a tiny little bit of small news, kind of minor stuff.
The indie company released something this week.
Yeah, exactly. Microsoft has been snapping up these tiny little companies for not much money. $7 billion here for Bethesda, and now most recently, $70 billion for Activision Blizzard.
In cash
Deal as well.
Deal.
It's not like part cash, part stock in Microsoft or something like that. It's they're cash rich.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? Okay, when you woke up and you read that, walk me through Jamie's thought process when you read that news.
Genuinely, I had got up to. So I've been up and about and I've been in front of the PC for a little bit, and I'm sat here and I got up to go and get a drink and I think make myself some breakfast or lunch or whatever time of day it was by this point. And I came back down and sat down and thought, a quick scroll through Twitter and noticed Activision trending. And I looked and I went, and my first response was just,
usually never good, right?
Fuck have they done now?
Yeah.
I went and clicked, and I read it, and I went, and I sat there for a minute, I sort of did the double take, jumped across to the group chat I've got with Alan and the guys that I'm usually playing with of an evening.
Yeah.
And just the two words I typed were just, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I went, what? And obviously shared the news. And that was the day then. For the rest of the day, it was just, I've just heard this about it, and I've just heard this about it. Everyone trading off information. But as more bits and pieces came to light, it was Alan who told me about the cash deal and the fact that basically Phil Spencer walked into an office somewhere and just went, "Can I have half of all our money?" Why? Don't worry about it. I just walked off and bought Activision, which is you have to admire.
It's not even close to half, though. Like, you think of it, like Microsoft is trillions. It's $1 trillion company. It's just they can do that, and that's obscene. Yeah, but like speaking of like the big cojones on Mr. Phil Spencer. To put that together, or I mean, I don't know who put it together, obviously, but it must have been a conversation at the highest level to say, I reckon we could buy Activision, you know? It's like, shut up, no way, that's just ridiculous. How do you even broach that concept?
I honestly imagine him just walking in there going, step 1.
Yeah.
Step 2, profit. Like, that was...
Yeah.
It's been interesting watching it unfold and seeing some of the backlash for it, and my only hope is that out of this deal, I can start to wear this hat in public again without feeling like a traitor. Because this is my Heroes of the Storm hat. Historically, I should point out, I have a lot of love for Blizzard. Obviously, I've played World of Warcraft a lot. I played Heroes a lot. I love Overwatch. I played a lot of Overwatch. So I like their IPs. I like their games. I like what they've been doing. Yeah. And then, without diving into it too heavily, because it's a cheerful morning show and their company is not something that brings cheer, I had started to shy away from World of Warcraft a while back, before any of the news of allegations of issues within the company, just because there was less to do. I would drop into it, but I wasn't playing it intensively. I had for a while been doing Mythic raiding with a group.
Okay.
Alan as a raid leader is scary, but fun. But so we'd been doing the Mythic raids and stuff, and then I'd sort of fallen back, so I'd stopped doing that, and so I was just doing my bits of questing and grinding for certain mounts that I wanted to get in the game. And there's only so much of that to do, and the new content that was dropping just wasn't exciting me, and that was the reaction of a lot of people. It was just like, it's getting a bit... And Classic was nice when it got re-released, and you could go back to Vanilla, but again, didn't really pull me in, and so I started to get a bit bored. And then when the news came out of all the problems with Blizzard, I cancelled my subscription and stepped away. I was like, you fix your shitty attitudes, fix your company, and I'll think about coming back. But at that point, once you fixed it, you're still going to have to impress me with your content. So it's just like, I just kind of got, meh. But it made me sad, because I used to... You say about games that just relax you. I would sometimes sit, and there's a pub in Goldshire in World of Warcraft where it's actually the pub, especially on our server, where all of the erotic roleplay happut. So you can entertain yourself.
Do you have anything to announce here?
No shame, but not my bag. But it is also, because of where it is, it's also where a lot of the guilds gather. There's usually dueling outside, so there's always weird stuff going on there.
Yeah,
and
only craft is what is happening in here.
A little bit. And I would just go and sit in the bar. And there was a guy who was always sat in that bar called Ragnar, was his character name. Didn't know the guy. But I used to go into the bar, and because he was always sat in the one corner, he had a really cool transmog. Me and the guys would go in there some nights, and I started telling stories to the other actual players in the bar about his great deeds. And the reason he was sat on that chair was because it was actually a mimic, and he was the only one who could keep it quiet. Or there was a portal to hell under it, and only his mighty buttocks could contain it and keep us all safe. And they ate it up. And it was just...
You're a bard. You've become a bard. You're like Dandelion from The Witcher, like telling the tales of Geralt. Yeah.
Well, you know me. I'm not a talker, but no, I love it.
You're very timid, and it's hard to get a word out of you. Yeah,
quiet, retiring soul. So, but yeah, it was fun. So I was missing all of that, and it was a shame. But I couldn't, in all good conscience, go back to giving Blizzard money. I just couldn't do it. So I've got a lot of hope that this acquisition will sort of give them a kick up the arse and things will start to get sorted. And I know there's been some backlash online. I've seen people talking about it's like, well, why is Kotick still even in the building? They've bought it, kick him out. It's like, they literally can't. It's not how it works. Like, they're not going to talk about that. I think you'll see Kotick leaving Activision leaving Blizzard quite quickly.
Yeah.
And also, some backlash with regards to, so, well, that's it. You're not going to have Call of Duty on PlayStation. It's like, they like money. They're not going to take it away from you. How you access it might become a little different, but they're not. I think they'll be pushing Sony at this point to take Games Pass on PlayStation. I think that conversation's being had with more fervour, because I know it's something they've wanted for a while anyway. I mean, Microsoft, they want Games Pass everywhere.
Yeah.
That's their end goal.
Yeah, and on every device, on every smart TV, Samsung TVs in 2023 will ship with an app that is Game Pass. This kind of stuff, like a Netflix app or something.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. I know there's talk of monopoly and how that can cause issue and I understand that from a business perspective, there's things that I'm probably not considering. But anything that puts more games in gamers' hands and removes that exclusivity that stops people from being able to play stuff, I'm okay with from a personal level. And I have the great privilege of not having to think about, but how does this affect the market? Because I don't care on a lot of levels. I know that it's something that has to be cared about, and I'm not saying to disregard it, but I'm not the guy who makes those decisions, and I don't have any real say on it apart from voting with my wallet. And I'm going to keep paying for Games Pass because it gives me an awful lot of games that I get to play. So,
and not play as well.
And more that I don't play than anything else, to be fair. But no, it's exciting times just to see what happens with it.
I still look at the news and I still don't really believe it, because it's such a huge acquisition, and you can only imagine, if anybody who isn't really aware, acquisitions of any magnitude, but especially of this magnitude, they can be in the works for years before anything ever happens, and the transition can easily be 1 to 2 years as well. So we mentioned there about Bobby Kotick being out of the door day one. Obviously that's not going to happen. He'll probably could easily be still the CEO for another year before everything is done and dusted and the papers are all signed and Activision is taken fully into the fold of Microsoft and ultimately Xbox and family of studios. So it's a very, very long and slow process. But I was, again, just looking at all of the IPs that Activision and Blizzard have. So we've obviously talked there about World of Warcraft. I honestly don't know the pulling power of World of Warcraft anymore. I know it was the MMO, but the past few years, all I see online is it's all about Final Fantasy 14 online. So I don't know what the future looks like for Warcraft. Is it still going to have that draw? Is it still going to have new content expansions coming out that can really rival and go toe-to-toe and bring people back and pull them away from Final Fantasy? I don't know. That'd be pretty awesome for the fans if it did. But so that's one mega beast right there, which could be huge again, if it isn't already, because I'm not really in that space. But you've got things like Crash Bandicoot. Wasn't Crash Bandicoot an Activision IP that they just licensed out to Sony? But but Sony don't own it. That Sony mascot isn't owned by Sony. It's owned by Activision. You've got Spyro the Dragon. You've got the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games. You've got Overwatch, for Christ's sake. Yeah. Overwatch is now an Xbox IP. Call of Duty is its own mega monster as well that is now owned by Xbox. What the hell? My God.
It's slightly overwhelming to consider the amount of IPs that are now in Microsoft's hands. And it's going to be, I mean, purely selfish viewpoint, it's going to be great because there's so many games now that are going to be day one releases on Games Pass. And that's 100%. Amazing. I think we might see. I've been steeped in this all week. I've been talking about it with a lot of folk, and we may see things like the World of Warcraft sub will quite likely get bundled into Game Pass, probably as an add-on. So you might have a tiered Game Pass now, but or because I don't think they would. It's another $10 a month. It would be there would have to be a slight price hike to absorb it potentially. And you're going to get people who aren't going to want to pay the price hike for that. Although, and they've got tiers already. You've got your Xbox Game Pass and your Ultimate Game Pass, which has got everything. Yeah. So I think we might see that absorbed. So, and again, that's something that will draw folk back. So there will be people who'll be like, well, I'm already paying for the sub, and I'll get this, and then I've got all these other games. And then they might stop playing World of Warcraft and stick around for all the rest of it, or vice versa. I think it's interesting. It's a bit like Netflix. Again, there's stuff that I have watched purely because it's on Netflix that I might not necessarily have thought, oh, I've got to seek that out.
Well, that's the real beauty and power of Game Pass, is the stuff that you wouldn't ever look at. Like probably Boyfriend Dungeon for you, Jamie, which is what you're deeply into at the moment.
Yeah, it wouldn't have crossed my radar even particularly, and I am really impressed with that game. Like, it's so good. And then I noticed there's a game that dropped day before, called Paparazzi, which is also from Kitfox. Okay. Who are the guys obviously who made Boyfriend Dungeon. And I saw that drop and I was like, I would never have considered that game. It's a photo about going around taking a game about going around taking photos of dogs. And that's the kind of thing that does not immediately make me go, ooh. So I thought, but because I know these guys can take a weird concept, and make a good game out of it, I was like, I will give that a go. That will probably be fun. So I think Games Pass helps studios get their stuff out there, and it helps games hit the eyes and ears of folk who wouldn't otherwise necessarily have picked them up, especially when it comes to, with PC gaming, with Steam sales and stuff. You there's a little bit of it, but you do. Generally speaking, especially like AAA titles, obviously are not cheap, and indie titles don't get the same sort of pushing power that the AAAs do. So
sure, of course,
quite often people will be picking up. It's like you might pick up one AAA title in a month, and you might grab a wee indie game because you happen to hear someone talking about it and stuff. But that was like how it always kind of worked historically. And there used to be games coming out, it's like, I've never even heard about that. It's been in development for 2 years, and they've been talking about it. It's like, news to me. But with Games Pass, because as well as just the fact that it's coming to Games Pass and you get to play it, because they want you to sign up for Games Pass and give you their money, obviously, it's a business, you'll see tweets and Facebook posts coming out about games that they wouldn't have been pushing. They would have been, why would Microsoft invest an awful lot of time and effort into their social media channels of saying, hey, there's this game from this indie studio that's two guys in a shed, and it's about taking photos of dogs. Do you want to sign up for do you want to buy an Xbox? Because we've got that. It's not how it works. It's not necessarily going to be something they're going to think this will push units, but they don't care about unit sales anymore. No. They've really got no interest in the hardware in as much as how much it sells, because why would they? So now it's everything that's coming to Games Pass, they'll push it online through socials. So I actually saw tweets about Paparazzi and Kitfox Games interacting with the Xbox Game Pass, Twitter account and stuff. And that was what made me look at it and go, that's those guys who did Boyfriend Dungeon. And I went and had a look at it and thought, this looks fucking bizarre, but I'm going to play it because it's on there and their other game was good. And so I just think it's a really exciting time to be in the games. It's a really overwhelming time, but a really exciting time. And like you said, with the amount of IPs that they can, that sort of pulling power they can leverage with Activision, it's
yeah. I mean, so
bizarre.
obviously, like things like Warzone are free to play on multi-platform, and I believe the rumblings and everything right now is like that's going to obviously stay multi-platform. Yeah. Do you think like the annualized games, like the single player games and stuff, do you think they're exclusive, or do you think they keep putting them on other consoles and just take the revenue from other consoles? Because this is the same conversation we had like when they bought Bethesda. This was the same conversation. It's like the next Elder Scrolls will be multi-platform. Of course it will. It's a franchise that's historically been multi-platform. And then the other corner is like, what are you talking about? You don't pay $7 billion to bring to have all these IPs on all these other consoles and not change anything. Of course, the Elder Scrolls 6 will be an exclusive title. But here we are again, with 10 times the value of Bethesda. Do you make all of these IPs, like lock them down? as an exclusive service offering only to Xbox. But
I think
because they're much bigger now. Like these IPs are even bigger. Like Call of Duty is crazy huge, but it's always been multi-platform. It's like, do you just like slam the door on the PlayStation community to then bring it? Okay, no, sorry, you like anything. Like Warzone will be continue to be supported through updates and things like that. But if there's like a Warzone 2 or like free to play model of Warzone 2, that's only on Xbox, or is it still gonna be multi-platform? Like it's we obviously can't answer these, but we obviously love to speculate. It's like what would they do? Like, would they really do that to Call of Duty? God, who knows?
I think to turn around and just say, hey, PlayStation fans, no more Call of Duty for you. Like, you don't get the new stuff. Sorry, buy yourself an Xbox is insane.
Yeah. Didn't they do that with Minecraft on PlayStation though? Like once Microsoft bought Mojang and Minecraft, wasn't like PlayStation like really far behind on terms of updates or something?
They were, but that was at the time. The way Minecraft worked when they first, because they bought Mojang, but what had happened with that was 4J Studios were doing the Xbox version of it, and it was a port, and it was being, and once they bought Mojang, they've created the Bedrock edition, which is the same edition across every platform, and so I mean I've got this Realm going, and my kids both play on Switch. They've got it on Xbox as well. Spoiled little sods, but they've got it on Xbox as well. But so they play on a mix of devices, but it's all on the same realm. It's brilliant. The Bedrock edition is fantastic, and now of course they've released the Minecraft launcher, and you can now play Java edition through your Games Pass as well, which was. Wow. I've had a little bit of flack for that from the guys, because I said to them, guys, if you all buy Java, I'll set up a server. It was about a year ago, and I haven't set up the server, and now Java's free. So it's like, I could have saved my money. Oh, sorry. So, but it's PlayStation was a wee bit behind. I don't know how much of that was down to them delaying or down to PlayStation. Not necessarily deliberately, but whether there were issues in that. Again, because I don't have a PlayStation, although I try and keep up to date on the news, it doesn't all necessarily filter through and register, especially when it's not affecting my gameplay. It's kind of like the big announcements and stuff, yes, but little problems I kind of only hear about when someone who's got one says, you won't believe the shit we put up with. So, but I think to turn around and say, no, you're not having any new Call of Duty unless you buy an Xbox, I don't see them doing it. I don't see them making it a platform exclusive. But I do see them making it I see them making it Game Pass exclusive. I think, wild speculation, but if it was anything to do with me, and I think there are probably people at least having this conversation or idea in Microsoft right now, I think there are a lot of phone calls happening between Microsoft and Sony going, you do want Games Pass on your console, though. You really do. Yeah. Because that way you can still announce the release of all of these games that you're not going to get otherwise. And then if you make Call of Duty exclusive to Games Pass, but PlayStation players can have Games Pass, then they still get their new game.
Yeah.
There's a lot more goes into it, and I know that's a bit sort of wide-eyed and tinfoil hat, but that kind of... If it was going to be made exclusive, that would be how I would expect it to be made exclusive. Exclusive to the service, not the platform. But that only works if they can get the service onto PlayStation.
Yeah. Which is a big if. It's a really big if that would ever happen, if they'd ever entertain anything like that. Yeah.
Well, PlayStation have been, Sony have been historically resistant to a lot of cross-platform stuff. Like, there are titles I know that you can play them cross-platform between Minecraft and Minecraft. Minecraft's what I was thinking of. You can play them between like Nintendo and Xbox, or PC and Xbox, or a mix of the three. I cannot remember for the life of me if Minecraft on PlayStation will let you connect to Realms with friends or connect cross-platform. I'm not sure that it does, and that might be the big sticking point with it. So
not sure either. I mean, but PlayStation historically have been okay in the past with games that are crossplay with PC with their MMOs, like Warframe, like DC Universe Online, and like titles like that. They haven't had an issue with that kind of crossplay, but when there's playing nice with crossplay between the other consoles, it's usually been like a big kind of no-no for them. Lightened up a little bit recently with certain games, like, I think Fortnite is crossplay with everything, and a few others obviously are as well.
As far as I know.
Yeah, but God, I don't know. There's lots to kind of pour over and speculate. Who, just before we wrap up, like, who do you think is like the next on the big acquisition table? Because there's a lot of like fun to be had to say, does Sony punch back and make like a big acquisition of, they've just bought Square Enix and now Sony own the Final Fantasy IP or something like that, and then like does Xbox counter punch with, okay, we're going to buy Capcom and therefore we now own the Resident Evil franchise, or you know, crazy speculation stuff like this.
Yeah, well, we were chatting about this earlier this week, weren't we, on Messenger, and it's I don't know who they go for next. They own a fair chunk of the IP market now, and a lot of the biggies, a lot of the games that there are, there's obviously a little list in the back of I think most gamers' heads of the big ones that when news comes out about them, even if you don't play them, you're interested to see what's happening. You're like, what's I think Capcom would be a good one for them, because Monster Hunter, huge, and Resident Evil, huge. I mean, Village, I think, did a hell of a lot to pull back, because I know Resi 5, sort of people were a bit meh.
Yeah.
Resi 6, I realised I played a review copy of Resi 6 around the time of one of the Eurogamer events, and loved it and gave it a glowing review, and then it came out and everyone hated it, and I was a little bit confused. I was like, well, I really enjoyed that, and I went back and tried it again. I was like, I don't know how much of my review was fueled by con fever, and just generally being exhausted, and let's be entirely fair, like, probably still had some alcohol in my system from staying out the night before, but I went back and played it. I was like, I might have been a little too generous to this one. And I didn't hate it, but I think, like, Village and that, definitely people have been massively impressed with it and loving and enjoying and all of the, stuff that's come out recently. So that'd be a good one. I know, interestingly to me, Take-Two just bought Zynga, so they control a fair chunk of the mobile gaming market. I don't know how interested in that Microsoft are, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's at least blipped their radar for some of the smaller titles and stuff.
Well, moneymakers, aren't they? Like Candy Crush, they now own, and that's still raking in like $1 billion a year just on mobile stuff. So it's crazy. It's a market that we never pay attention to, but it's just constantly making tons of money all the time.
I've never been able to fathom how mobile gaming makes so much money. I've never been able to, and that's not even, I hate that whole thing. It's like, mobile gaming is not real game. It's like, if you're playing a game, it's a game. Like, you're gaming. That's it. Gaming is what it is. But I've never quite understood it, just because I cannot imagine. I mean, I play mobile games. I play Pokemon Go a fair amount, or at least I have, not recently. A friend of mine has a game studio, and they released a mobile game. They're a very small studio, but they released a mobile game called Wheelie Hard, and it is really good fun. You have to keep your motorbike revs up, and it travels along side scrolling, and you have to try not to fall off and stack it, and it's entertaining as hell. Really bloody difficult at times, but that's what the name's for. So I play mobile games sometimes, but I've even on Pokemon Go, I've occasionally bought some Pokeballs back in the day before I built up a collection of them by going around Pokestops. So I've put a few pence into it, but I thought, even knowing how many people in the world own a mobile phone, and how many people who would probably never game on any other platform will sit and play a puzzle on their phone just to pass the time, I still can't imagine that amount of money getting drawn in from it. I've never been able to get a grip on that. It's a weird one.
I know.
But it is a huge, it's a huge income sponge. So that's quite possible they're looking at that. But I still think they've got to be looking at things like Ubi, and there will be someone in Microsoft whose job it is essentially is to look at how much money all the other game companies make and look for an opportunity to buy them so that they can have that money.
Yeah.
But that's again, business, acquisitions and resale and all that. So, but they've got to look at Ubisoft and then, you know, like IOI under it and Squeenix and all that sort of thing and be thinking, well, that's really popular and that's really popular. We've got everything else, so we've got to complete the set.
I'd like Xbox or Microsoft to purchase Ubi just for maybe we might eventually finally get a proper new Splinter Cell. Just for that reason alone. Like if we can get old Uncle Phil Spencer to drop $7 billion on Ubisoft just to give us a Splinter Cell game, I think that's money well spent. And that's my business take.
I believe remaking the first Splinter Cell currently.
I think so, something like that.
I think so.
Yeah. We'll see.
But that's the first news of anything. But yeah, if we could get a new one out of it, that would be nice. So yeah, and again, like franchises that if they're looking at IPs that they can blow the dust off of somewhat, definitely Ubi's got to be on the list. They've got some stuff under their belt that would be worthwhile, I think.
Well, all the Tom Clancy franchise stuff, like Tom Clancy's like Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, other ones that we haven't even thought. Remember, like ages ago, they used to have that tactical game, it wasn't like an XCOM, but it was Tom Clancy. It was like a world conspiracy kind of strategy game. I can't even remember the name of it now.
Can't remember the name. No, I know what you're all about.
You know, Assassin's Creed as a franchise is huge. Prince of Persia, bring Prince of Persia back, could be phenomenal as well. Like Ubisoft are rich with IP, especially their newer stuff. Like Immortals: Phoenix Rising was actually a lot of fun, very, very filled with humor. That's a brand new like franchise that deserves a couple of sequels. Ubisoft are like a really good IP stable house. Not to mention their partnership with Nintendo for the Rabbids game, the Rabbids crossover, Mario Rabbids. You know that, like,
of course,
like XCOM light kind of game. It's fun to speculate about all this stuff. It's really fun to speculate all this stuff. I think as the weeks and months kind of roll on, there's going to be a lot of stuff that gets shaken out and a lot to kind of unpack and constantly discuss as well. But anyway, let's wrap the show there, buddy. It's been another tremendous show, episode 67 of the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast. I want to say a massive thank you to our friends, our listeners, whether you are a video viewer or a podcast listener, audio only version. Thank you so much for your support. Tell your friends about the show, like, subscribe, and give us a comment if you're over on the YouTube channel. And we will see you next week for more fun-filled and tangent-induced gaming chat. Take care, everybody. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.